Welcome to Alligator Preserves, everyone. I am your host, Laurel McHargue, and I have another special guest to share with you today. Her name is Carla Seyler, and her book is A Place Unknown, Unmade. Oh, goodness gracious, A Place Unmade.
It's all right.
Unknown, unmade, unmade. Carla, welcome
That's
to Alligator
actually,
Preserves.
thank you. Thank you.
It's actually what were you going to say?
Well, it's from a poem by Wendell Berry. And so to and if Wendell Berry was like one of the first environmentalists in the country, and I had to write to him to be able to use this section from his poem. And he's about 90 years old, and he sent me this handwritten letter back in pencil that I now
No.
have framed and giving me permission. So it was very nice.
Oh my
So
gosh, that is amazing.
it was very
That's
cool.
so when you republish A Place Unmade, you're going to have a copy of that penciled thing in the back, like as an annex or
Oh,
something.
that's a neat idea.
That,
I do have his poem in there.
oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I had to get permission from his publisher to do that. So it's,
So Carla, this is a multiple award-winning novel.
I've been very lucky.
What? No, you're very talented. So tell our audience a little bit about you.
Well, I am born and raised in New Orleans, and I live there part time and live in Colorado part time. I'm very fortunate to live in Buena Vista, Colorado, half the year. And so, but right now, during the winter months, although it's 67 degrees today, I'm in New Orleans. And this is the carnival season. So we are in the precursor to Mardi Gras, which is Fat Tuesday. And so it's a little crazy here.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yes, it's really nuts. Like last night, my husband and I were coming home and we were going down St. Charles Avenue. And for the first time, they have put up barricades on St. Charles Avenue, so that it's like an obstacle course. And so we were doing this for a couple of miles on St.
Oh,
He Avenue.
oh my goodness. Wait, is today Fat Tuesday?
No, oh no, I would
No,
not
it's
be
coming.
here.
Oh.
I would. No, this is part of the 2 weeks or so that lead up to um, Mardi Gras or Fat
All right.
Tuesday.
All righty. I have not
Yeah.
yet been there, and it's
Oh,
on my to-do list.
it's
So
really fun.
yeah, so
It's fun.
sometime when you're down there, I'm gonna have to come down. So Carla, A Place Unmade, give our listeners an elevator pitch. Now, if those of you who haven't heard the term before, an elevator pitch is when you as an author hop into an elevator and all of a sudden there's an agent there and they say, "What's your book about?" And you have 3 floors to tell them what your book's about. What's your book about?
Okay. A young lady in New Orleans, Louisiana, who's a graduate student, discovers this plot where this agricultural company executive is trying to get a monopoly on the grain market. And the reason he's doing this is to make a lot of money in the commodities market. But what the book is really about, that's the plot line. But what the book is really about is trying to show the dangers of the lack of food biodiversity. And there was an article I read in the New York Times, and I just was flabbergasted because um, our our food supply is supply. There's only just a few um, plants really that supply all supply all our food. That's the Italian in me using my hands to
I love it.
gesture. Okay. Okay. So that it's a story about this discovery of a plot and how the problem in um, uh, controlling one segment of the food supply could have repercussions for the whole world.
Yes, and so I was going to ask what got you interested in this specific type of plot. This is a biowarfare kind of plot. What was it, that article
Yeah,
that got you interested in it, or is this your
it
background?
No, it was. I have no background in this other than liking to garden. So no, that was it. And so I did a lot of research to figure out what was going on in this, and had a lot of fun doing it. It was just
Yeah,
very interesting.
I was going to say the first thing that came to my mind as I'm reading this, and it's very apparent that you have done a ton of research. I mean, the things that I learned in there, you talk about the Unity gardens that were made long time ago, you know, during wartime. Um, wheat curl mites, the fact that viruses can live 700 years. Holy mackerel. I mean, I'm reading this and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm underlining and I'm
Yes.
thinking, this is a course in a way also. And you have these classroom scenes. Well, first of all, where did you do the research? How long did it take you to do all that research? Because there's a lot in there.
Yes. Well, it took me 2 years to research and do the and write the book, and then a year of editing, because this was my first book. And as many of my early readers would say, I could tell that it was. um, so it took a long time, and it was kind of like, as I did one, kind of went into one little area, then another one would open up, and then another, and so it just mushroomed.
And
So
did you have a problem with saying, okay, this is enough? I know some people who research and research and research and never get a book written because they just never do enough research. How did you shut yourself down on that?
yes, well, I had to because
Yeah.
I had some fun dead ends. Um, like I studied Svalbard and the seed bank in Norway, and my first thought was I was going to blow up a seed bank, and um, and then I realized
not you. Someone in
no,
your
no, my
novel.
character, yes. But like I knew nothing about Norway. And so it was like, that's going to be really tough, really tough to do that. And then while I was in that Norway research, I discovered, and I wrote the book during the pandemic. And so I discovered that um, many of the people that had the 1918 influenza, some of them were buried in Norway, where there was, the permafrost and everything, which was melting. And so that was one of those areas where I went down that path during the pandemic and said, I don't want to know anymore.
Oh,
um, and so, because you know, I had, it raised all sorts of questions
yeah,
in my
yeah,
head.
yeah.
So it was really interesting. And for me, I think every author is different. You're an author yourself. And so I think and you do world building, which is so interesting. Um, but mine was, I kind of went down all these different paths and had to say, okay, where is a coherent way forward?
Yes, yes. I was going to talk about that. I think you're a planner and not a pantser. You know, you talk about my world building, and you have built a world as well. So, I did you plan everything, or do you write by the seat of your pants, or a little bit of both? How did
Probably
that
a
come
little
out?
bit of both. I I've told this story before, but I started out. My brother and I both wanted to write books, and so we would have our own tiny critique group once a week, and we would write, and then we would share our work by email, and then talk about it, and so that kind of kept me going. Um, but it was I kind of had this idea about where I was going, and then would get into these places where I just stop. And so I would talk to people about, what am I, basically, what am I doing? And, and then be able to go forward, and so they were really kind of fits and starts, or stops and starts.
Yep, yep.
Um, and then kind of saw my way through, but it was kind of, and I'm finding that's the case with this next book I'm writing as well. It's very
All
much
right.
Yes.
we'll talk about that in a minute. Do I need to interview your brother? Has he published yet?
Maybe so. He
Maybe
doesn't
so.
have it yet.
All
No,
right.
he's stopped. So
Well, all right. So in here, you have your main characters are in a classroom where they're learning about the environment and all that. And I felt like I'm sitting right there in around the table with these graduate
oh,
students.
good, good.
Is this reflective of any school experience you've had?
Well, it was very loosely modeled on the University of New Orleans,
Okay.
um, where I went for my undergraduate degree. And because UNO is a place where it's very open to everyone. Like you can, like Atala, one of my students in the book, was from the Middle East, and we had many students from the Middle East, and people who were going to school as you know, older students,
Mhm.
who had come back. And so it was a real mix of people that I experienced and I loved. And so the bioethics was not a class I had, um,
Wow.
but uh, certainly ethical classes as a rehabilitation counselor later in my career. And so I could kind of combine the two,
Yeah, well,
and
you did a great job with that. I gotta
good.
tell you, I'm like, oh, I feel like I could get a degree now. I certainly want to do more research. You made me want to do more research on things. So a lot of people feel that that they don't ever want to buy any GMO products. It's the whole non-GMO stuff is really big now. But isn't just about everything genetically modified now in some way or
Well,
other? I mean, even our
um,
fresh vegetables, shapes, you think you're buying fresh
right.
stuff and they're beautifully shaped and they're coated with wax and whatever. I mean,
Yes. Well, it's an interesting question. In many parts of Europe, GMO products are restricted. Here in the States, they are not. Um, I mean, to find non-GMO, you practically have to go to like a Trader Joe's, a Whole Foods market, a farmer's market, and their, or organic produce, which is very difficult for a farmer to qualify for. So everything isn't GMO, everything isn't genetically modified, the full term genetically modified organisms. But there's a lot of them out there, and there's not intrinsically anything wrong with them. What's wrong is having everything be the same, so that if you have just like, and with wheat, for example, you have just maybe 4 or 5 strains of wheat that cover the entire food supply. And that's a scary thought because it is all designed so that the fields are, um, the way they harvest them is done at a particular time so that bugs can come at a particular time. And if that happens, it could wipe out everything all at once. And so it's
yeah,
a scary kind of thing. So GMO in itself is not bad because there's a lot of things that are GMO that are good, like they're modifying like tomatoes to have more of certain types of vitamins. But you also can get them to that they're trying to make them be a particular, like you were saying, a particular color, and or that they'll last as they are shipped all the way
mm,
across the country.
yeah,
And so you're going to sacrifice taste when you
yeah.
do that.
Yeah. And something in there also talking about seeds from certain plants, but maybe those are just heirloom plants. No, is it
Well,
GMO plants that the seeds you can't then reproduce?
well, it's the patents, and I may be telling your listeners more than want to hear, so stop me if I
No,
do.
no.
But the Supreme Court decided that they were going to allow patents on living organisms. And so once they did that, that opened the door to patenting certain types of plants, even the color of a particular carrot. And
Wow.
so it's crazy. So, I mention in the book, like the poor Percy Smizer in Canada, pollen from a Monsanto plant blew over into his field, and made it connected, it merged, or uh, you know,
Yeah, it kind of infected his field so that he then
yeah, I
couldn't sell his stuff. What?
right, exactly. I joked about that, their pollen had sex with his corn
Yeah,
plants,
yeah.
and so then he couldn't sell his canola plants. And even though he had this award-winning variety of canola plants, and so it's to me that was just stunning. I just couldn't believe it.
There are a lot of stunning things that go on in there. Yeah, unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
eh, back to your book, A Place Unmade, which is way more than just crop warfare. You've got so the villain, his nefarious actions, the way you insert them in here really creates incredible suspense.
Oh,
So how
good.
how, how
Okay.
did you come up with that idea? You talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Well, as a first writer, um, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And so I had an editor, and she recommended to intersperse all the scenes. And so that's what I started doing. And I also early on had a timeline problem. And so once I had finished the book, and then I did the outline. And so cut the pieces up into little pieces of paper, cut the outline up into little pieces of paper. And so was rearranging them, and then adding in all the little suspense bits, like the drones, and the villain,
Yeah.
and all of that. And we can, it ended up where, it really was this little piece of paper of mishmash for a long time. So,
Yeah. I mean, literally, you were cutting and
and yes, and well, then once I had all the little pieces of paper, then it was rearranging them.
yeah.
And so that's, yeah, great method. I'm sure if there are any authors out there, I probably don't recommend it. It was like desperation.
I can just see your floor or your table or wherever you did this. I can just see it,
Yes.
things being moved around and getting new ideas. I mean, that's a process. That's an incredible process. So, in addition to all that, you also have kind of a love triangle going on. So, talk about the love triangle angle
Yes,
a little
that
bit.
was fun. And I didn't really know who Valentina wanted to be with.
Mm.
Um, and that kind of happened along the way. Um, my brother, who is from South Louisiana as well, wanted her to end up with Kai. And
No, no, don't give any spoilers.
no, I won't. I won't. Thank you for the reminder. And then I have
Because
had,
maybe she did.
yes, maybe she did, or Leo or Sam, but it was
Oh.
kind of this. Yeah, I didn't know. How do you want me to answer that question? Because I didn't know till the very end.
Well, that's an awesome surprise, isn't it?
It was.
Yeah,
It
like
really
sometimes
was.
sometimes I ask, as you're writing a novel, were there any surprises? And so sounds like that might have been one of
Yes,
them.
it was for me.
And so while you were doing the plot of all the nefarious things going on in the drones and the fields and the bad guy, um, how did you decide that there had to also be this dynamic of
Oh,
who's she going to be with? Because there's romance in there too, and you had a little bit of everything going on in this.
well, I think, that's a good question. I think I wanted to include a romance no matter what kind of book I wrote. I kind of started reading Nora Roberts when I was a child.
She's
um,
good.
Yeah, she is good and always has this suspense and romance. But I thought that it was important because really this is it could be a very heavy book. It's kind of a niche, it's got a niche audience because there's a lot of science.
Mhm.
Um, and so I did the romance to hopefully pull in some more people that might not otherwise have read it.
Well, I think romance readers will be surprised at what they learn in the science field because, like again, you make it very accessible to a reader. I would say
Good.
it's not too sciency. So, do you think A Place Unmade is a cautionary tale against love triangles and biowarfare?
I don't think love triangles. I think those are interesting. But
Cautionary tale.
certainly in terms of our food situation in the country, yes.
Are you afraid? Did your research make you afraid of anything now? I mean, do we need to stock up on certain things?
um, wow, that's such an interesting question. No, one of the things that's really in jeopardy is bananas.
Oh
Um,
no, I love bananas. I
yeah,
have a banana every single day. I have a banana.
yes.
Oh,
Well,
don't
and I
tell me
was
that.
um, in the 1950s, we almost lost bananas due to a fungus. And so they went back and found another banana that they could, make lots of, and produce and everything like that. But that same fungus is attacking this banana. And
No.
yeah, and so no, that was one of the interesting things when I was researching. It was like, and someone I was telling this story said, well, it would be sad if we lost bananas, but we could still continue on. It'd be very sad if you were having a banana every day. I have a banana almost every day too. But wheat is a big deal. And so I had to find a real virus that, would attack wheat. I try to shop at farmers markets whenever I can. I try to buy organic. I'm trying to support the smaller producers because I think we're not realizing how, I
Fragile.
think, yeah, it is
Yeah.
fragile. And another group that's fragile are small farmers. And that was
Mm.
the other thing as I continued to research. I have great uh, concern for small farmers because they are being kind of pushed out by the large conglomerates.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, what's the answer? What's the answer to making
Well, I
sure
don't
that
know.
we can all continue to eat? We have to have our own little gardens and our own little whatever, wherever we can do it in our windows and on our little plots. Um, so in addition to the intrigue and the suspense and the love triangle and the classroom stuff and the learning, you pepper your whole narrative with Cajun food and music and dance and talk about adding flavor to the book.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
That was a lot of fun. I wanted to give a picture of New Orleans that wasn't Mardi Gras, like is going on right now, which is
yeah.
it's truly crazy. Um, or the typical French Quarter, Bourbon Street scenes. I wanted to do some real life kind of aspects of New Orleans. And so that was very important to me. And so Tipitina's is actually the place where I met my husband.
Ah,
Um, they have Cajun dancing there periodically. They used to have a Fado Do every Sunday evening, but this sort of thing, and they have it at other places in New Orleans. But there's the culture is so rich. Um, it's amazing. It's also in danger. When I went yesterday on the the boat trip into Barataria, which is a kind of swamp marsh area um, in kind of southwest of New Orleans. Um, these are people where the saltwater incursion is changing their way of life.
Yeah.
Um, and all the flood protection for New Orleans makes it, when the floods come, the water stops at Western New Orleans and then it goes back into these bayou areas. And so these are people that have really no, flood protection. So it's Louisiana, I love Colorado, but Louisiana is a rich mine for writing because there's so much to look at and consider.
So you mentioned earlier your next book that you're writing. Did this boat trip have something to do with your what you're working on now?
Yes,
Is it a sequel to A Place Unmade?
no, it's
No.
not. It's and maybe one day I'll go back to those characters. I don't know, but that was the story I wanted to tell, and so
Yeah.
I feel like it's done. No, this one is about. It's actually about gun smuggling, and I there always has to be kind of this. I don't know about you, and when you're writing books, what drives you or what that motivation is. Um, and so someone should interview Laurel for a podcast. But for me, I discovered that um, the there's only one gun store in all of Mexico. All the rest of the guns are smuggled in. And so that one legal gun store, it's run by the Mexican government. Every other gun, most of them are coming from the United States. And
Wow.
so I didn't know that.
I
And so
didn't know
that to
that.
me, no. And so we talk about the fentanyl crisis. Well,
Yeah.
we're supplying the guns for the gun lords. And so like it's amazing. And
Ooh.
so this next book is going to be about a an older woman. She's 43. Her name is Coco Benoit, and she discovers she works for a oil field supplier, that supplies all the goods and things that the oil rigs need.
Okay.
And she is going to discover a smuggling ring in her place of employment. And so it's very interesting. And the difference is most guns are smuggled into Mexico by land. And so I'm kind of changing things up and making it happen on the water.
All
So
right. Will there be love story in there too?
definitely.
Definitely.
Yes.
How close are you with finishing this
Um,
one?
oh gee. I've probably got hmm, I'm probably a half to two-thirds done.
Okay. All
So
right.
it takes me a long time. So
That's okay. That is okay. I mean, the novel that I finished before Christmas and that, it has been through some critiques. I am almost completely rewriting now because
oh,
I realized that I had 3.5 years ago decided to write it in the past tense, and now I decided it really needs to be in the present tense. So,
oh
just
my
about every
goodness.
every sentence needs to be changed. But in the process, and I'm going to ask you for advice that you might give other writers too. But I'll give you this advice, and I've heard it before. It's not this isn't just from me, but I've heard it before that once you finish something, you think it's finished. You really have to put it aside and let it sit and let it wait and then go back to it
And then
after
go
other
back.
people have read it and given you
Well,
suggestions because oh my gosh, it's going to be so much better now with yeah.
it's yes. Well, and you see, I thought I had to finish the book before I could get in a real critique group, besides my brother. And so then I joined, and let's give a plug for Central Colorado Writers
Yes,
who are
CC,
amazing.
yep, CCW, yep, Central Colorado
Yes,
Writers,
yes.
ccwriters.org, yep.
And I joined after I had finished, and then I got all this feedback. And so then I was rewriting and submitting my book and things like that. And then it kind of like the whole next year was this rewriting, submitting it to beta readers, critique other critiquers, and it was just this very painful process. But I do have to say, the past tense, present tense question is very interesting because my first editor recommended that I change everything to present tense. It was in past tense. And that was very difficult. So I really admire and respect you for doing that, but I found it extraordinarily difficult. Went to present tense, back to Colorado writers, and they were like, oh, no. And so got this very negative feedback, kept working on it, and continued to get negative feedback about the present tense. So then rewrote it again back to past tense. So I had probably 5 rewrites.
Oh my gosh.
It
Oh
was
my
painful.
gosh. That is painful. And I want to say you don't always have to take people's advice.
No,
But
no.
you have to be happy with how it ends up. And actually what reminded me, and this was a reminder, I'm listening to the audiobook, and here's a plug for somebody else, and she lives in Colorado Springs, I think. Um, I'm listening to Fourth Wing, which is a fantasy Dragon Academy kind of place. And I'm
Mhm.
listening to that. I'm on book 2 right now. And she writes in present tense. And it's very exciting. It's thrilling. It keeps you active in the storyline. And so
There's an immediacy
there's an
to present
immediacy.
tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And but I just think it's harder. Um,
Interesting. Yeah. Because I'm having a blast with it. Oh, but anyway,
oh no.
anyway,
Okay.
anyway. So what advice might you have for other authors who are thinking
uh,
about writing a novel?
yes. The the big saying that I picked up on was a professional writer is an amateur who didn't quit.
Oh,
And that I think is so true. It's just keep going and it'll happen. You know, that's the 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 big thing. Just keep going.
keep going, keep going. Don't get discouraged. Yeah,
Don't stop.
don't stop. It if you're out to make money,
Oh well.
you might say I could say something about
Rethink
that. Don't stop
rethink the
your
career.
don't stop your day job.
No, no. Yeah, well, I started when I retired, and I think the other thing I would say is everyone will, like, for whatever reason, I have gravitated towards books where I have to do a lot of research,
Yeah.
and so that's at least at this point in my writing career, that's who I am. And so, but someone else maybe someone is going to be someone completely different. And I think the important thing is to just write and write and write, and then figure out who you are as a writer. And that's exciting.
It is. And it should be fun. You should have some fun. I mean,
Mhm.
it's hard. The editing process is difficult, especially if you have to change the whole
Yes,
thing. But you should enjoy what you're writing. If you don't enjoy what you're writing, probably your readers won't enjoy it either.
yes, very true. Yeah.
So, Carla Seyler, author of multiple award-winning authors, as you can see here, holy mackerel, of A Place Unmade, which just has a lot going on in it. Do you have any shout outs to people you'd like to recognize who might have helped you along the way?
Oh my goodness. Well,
We talked about Central Colorado writers.
definitely. Well, my publisher, Black Rose Writing, my beta readers, some of whom are in um, Central Colorado's writers, Kim Torrens, Kristen Homer. They were wonderful. Um, certainly, just the support of all the fellow writers who were out there. It was amazing. My family, certainly my husband was amazing because he would listen and I would get stuck and I would tell him about it and just talking about it I would get unstuck. And
Yeah.
so that was so exciting. So
Yeah.
it's been a wonderful journey, and I've just appreciated everyone so much. And so I really thank you for this opportunity today to introduce readers to my book.
Well, it was fun, and I'm looking forward to your next one. Where can readers find your book and more about you?
Yes, certainly on my website, carlaseyler.net. Also Amazon. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, um, all online. I think Target online. It's available at a few local bookstores in Buena Vista. Available at Buena Vista. It's available at Once Upon
Once
a
Upon a
Trapeze.
Trapeze. Yeah.
Yes, and here in New Orleans at a couple of bookstores. So um, the Blue Cypress mainly. So
Wonderful. That is fabulous. Listeners out there, if you haven't purchased her book yet, get it. Follow her. If you haven't liked and subscribed to my channel yet, do that. Hit that like and subscribe button so you can get more amazing interviews with fabulous people who are doing incredible research that will blow your mind and make you think. And yeah, I will have links and photos on my website at leadvillelaurel.com. The book, A Place Unmade, the award-winning author, Carla Seyler. Thank you so much for your time today.
thank
And
you. It's
oh,
been a pleasure.
you're welcome. And stay safe down there with all those crazy people during Mardi
Yes.
Gras. All right.
Okay. All right.
We'll see you
Take
next
care.
time. We're back up here. You're back up here in the area. We'll get together. Okay.
Sounds great.
All
Okay.
right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.